I think we were all designed to be perfect. And today I want to explain what I mean. I also want to start out by giving credit because a lot of the thinking on this was done by my pen pal, who I will codename EGR. He knows who he is. He sends me a lot of voice notes, and this is one of the themes because he's a doctor that he talks about quite a bit. Let's define by what we mean by perfect. This means that I don't think there's any genes for asymmetry, right? Like they've never found diseases for asymmetry or disease or for ugliness. Like what they found generally is that our genes, define a body that is symmetric and designed to be healthy. Most things, like when you look at things like genetic diseases, for example, a lot of these diseases they call genetic, like they're actually caused by gene mutations. And for me, gene mutations, does it make sense that like those mutations just happened randomly and then these diseases started to grow, which would go against natural selection because these are obviously like bad for your ability to reproduce, and yet these diseases grow and grow and grow? Or is it more likely that these mutations are due to compensations? The person's body is compensating and falling apart, and therefore they have this mutation in the gene. And that interpretation makes a lot more sense to me. And so for me, in my mind, I think it was like if you're an architect and you drew a perfect design to a house, like that is every human being. But then unfortunately, like you hired kind of a shoddy construction crew, right? And they built it out of like shoddy materials, and with time, like this thing started falling apart. But it doesn't mean that the design was bad. And that's a little bit how I see what happens to human beings. So why? Like why does the construction go bad? Why do we fall apart? I like to say that this is because we compensate. Compensation is the body's reaction to forces, that impact its ability to function. Right. So things might be like you're born with compression as a child, and the body, in order to be able to breathe and function correctly, like changes a little bit its structures. Right. And this results in a mouth breathing child, for example. If humans put on braces or if you grind down your teeth, right, these are all things that were not in the original design, but they impact the function. And when you impact the function of the body is going to have to compensate for this external force or for this unexpected force. And that's just survival, right? Like if we didn't have the ability to compensate and the body just stayed exactly the way it was designed to be, regardless of what happened, like we would probably die, and, we just wouldn't be able to adjust to things that happen to us, and we would die very easily. And certain things, so like I think the pattern that I've seen is that when you try to prevent a compensation pattern, you are more than likely going to make things worse. All right. Like one example I like to point to is that I've read stories of people that have TMJ and muscles are tight in their jaw or whatnot. And I've even done this once to myself, I think, even before 2014, where I got a Botox shot into a tight muscle. This is very common among people that have TMJ condition. And they might feel good for a little while. Right. But like when you hear these stories, usually like after the fact, after they've done, a number of Botox over a period of time, these people never get better. Like they're always getting worse. And I've even seen a few stories where it seemed like the Botox accelerated the pace at which they got worse, which to me makes a lot of sense because the muscle was in spasm because the body was reacting to some forces. Right. You can almost think like something was forcing the body to kind of like be out of position, and the muscle was tightening up to try to prevent the thing from collapsing further. And then like you just go in and Botox that muscle. So you basically like wipe out the defense mechanism. And so the next level of collapse happens. And that's exactly what I think is happening. And that's why I don't think you should try to like prevent the body's natural compensation mechanisms because they're designed to help you survive. The good news is that these biomechanics that I talk about, by simply using a mouthguard, right, basically revert a person back to perfection. There's all these compensations that are in our body, but if you just wear a mouthguard and you kind of do it for an extended period of time, it is stretching some of the soft tissue that is then allowed to uncompensate. Little by little, you're putting your body structure back together. And if you stuck with it, I'm pretty sure you could get back to perfection. And this wouldn't be a function of like what you ate or how much exercise you did. Right? I think any person could get back to perfection by doing this process while sitting on their ass and like picking out every day. And it just wouldn't matter. Some people say, no, how can that be? Blah, blah, diet's very important. Yes, diet's very important if you're already compensated, right? But if you have the correct biomechanics, I don't think that that's true. And, other folks, like another argument is like, oh, our ancestors, they ate very natural food or whatnot. Like, if you actually look at the way our ancestors, like cavemen and stuff had to live, like sometimes they had to just, scavenger for whatever was available, right? And I'm sure they were eating much more horrible stuff than us, right? And they would have survived. And one analogy I like to make is like the dog that you see, the dog living on the street that's going through the dumpster, right? Like my dad, or I remember in childhood, like I pointed to it and I was like, oh wow, how is the dog able to eat that garbage out of the dumpster? And it was like, the answer was the dog's stomach was designed for it because, it's a dog. And the reality is, like, our stomachs were designed for the same. Like, we were designed to be very hardy. And there is no reason genetically or from an evolutionary standpoint that if we had to have stomachs that were that hardy hundreds of years ago or thousands of years ago, why it wouldn't be the same today? Because you wouldn't lose that ability, in my view, right? There would be no reason for us to lose that ability. The other point I want to make is that the body is designed to heal on its own. So this is something that I've seen on my own body, and I'm pretty sure it's true of everybody, is that if you kind of like have the biomechanics going in the right direction and are improving, the immune system is freed up to do its job and fight pretty much anything, right? And so my story is like 5 years. I work like a machine at 47 years old. Like I don't try to give myself breaks or whatnot. Like I don't take any of the traditional advice. I just keep working, right? I'm usually working till 10 or 11 p.m. I start at 8 a.m. the next day. I'm working half my weekend. Why? Because like I don't need breaks. That's what I figured out. Is these biomechanics are going in the right direction, and it doesn't matter that I'm eating like crap and I'm working this much and I'm not doing any exercise. I just keep improving. And that shows that the body has this amazing ability to defend against, external, disease and whatnot, and stay strong with very little like effort, it just happens. So I think that's generally going to be true of everybody, right? Like if you have the right biomechanics, your immune system is going to be strong to keep you healthy. So some final thoughts. This article or this session is about the fact that we are designed to be perfect, right? Our genetic code was designed to be perfect. And the only thing that is preventing us from being perfect is the body's compensations, right? And those compensations were to keep us alive and help us survive because, some external unexpected things happened along the way, when we were living. And that there's a biomechanical process, which is very simple, which includes using a mouthguard like Revive, that basically you can undo these compensations and bring everything back to perfection. And to come back to perfection doesn't require a lot of additional effort. Like you don't need to eat healthy. You don't need to exercise, in my view, and it's just going to happen. And in my view, like life was almost meant to be easy. We weren't designed that we have to do all this exercise and eat extremely healthy food to stay healthy, right? Like we are designed to stay healthy and beautiful with almost no effort. And I'm pretty sure that, that's what we're going to figure out as the years go on. Thank